Grand Rising, Supreme Rising to all. Wagwan. This is your brother, Lord Amadakan, Flying Eagle, Ra Elohim. This is going to be a little bit lengthy, and I hope you take the time to, hear it in its entirety, because I think it's important that a lot of people they've been following my journey, and for the new people to truly understand who I am and what I am and what my purpose is, in spite of everything that some people may say. Just a few haters, right? But I always say that they can't stop what was meant to come. So let me take you to the beginning. At a very young age, I knew that there was something different about me. I didn't know what it was, but at the age of 6, I was always what we call today being woke at the age of 6. My mother named me Kenrick, Kenrick. Not once have I ever thought of looking at the meaning or the spiritual meaning of that name. But going back to the age of 6, I grew up in a Christian home. And for whatever reason, I had a lot of questions, always asked questions growing up, particularly about the Bible and the characters in the Bible and the things that's taking place in the Bible. And the answers were always met with, well, don't question God. This is what the Bible says. It is what it is. And no one could give me any answers except for never question God. And if you question God, you risk, you might go to hell, so to speak, right? My soul was a little bit rebellious to the whole concept of religion and just sitting in the church watching a man at a pulpit talking to people and people stomping and speaking in tongues. It just never resonated with me at the age of 6. So I was a little bit rebellious, forced to go, and I still went, but I would go downstairs the church and outside and play with my friends as much as I can, not to be within the congregation. The older I got, the more rebellious I became. And I decided at a very young age, not because, my home or my upbringing was a problem. I just wanted to do my own thing. I felt, at a very young age, I had to go experience the world. In 2011, a young lady, she asked me, she said, have you ever looked at the meaning of your name, the spiritual meaning of your name? And I would suggest all you guys do the same, right? You'll be surprised to see what you learn about yourself with your name. And I took her advice and I went and I looked at the meaning, the spiritual meaning of my name. And this is what it is. The name Kenrick is of Old English and Welsh origin, meaning royal power or bold ruler. It combines the elements of scene or sign, royal, and rick, power or ruler in Old English. In Welsh, it can be derived from sign or cyn, depends on how you pronounce cyn, and it's chief and Gwa man. The name embodies qualities of leadership, strength, and nobility. Now, when I saw that, I wasn't surprised though. And I'm not being cocky or anything, because that's who I was. That was my characteristics. That was my personality. I've always been that way in everything I do. Wherever I went, there was a different energy that I embodied, regardless of the environment. In Brooklyn, I grew up, amongst the gangs, the gangsters, but I never gangbang. I was never in a gang, and they respected that. Both sides. I knew them. They were all my friends, but they never violated me because my energy was different. And both sides always said, don't mess with this young buck. He don't want to be a part of the gang, but he's cool with us. And I was cool with every gang member on the block. And I'm talking about, I grew up in the 90s. When I say in the 90s, I'm talking about East 94th, East 93rd, East 96 in Brooklyn, East 98, a place where the police was afraid to come until Giuliani decided enough is enough. I'm saying all that to say, not to impress you or make you think I'm a gangster or I'm a bad man. No, I'm saying that to say, because I was humble, my energy was different. Those gang members respected me for who I was, and they respected the fact that I did not want to be a part of the gang, and I stood on that, and I didn't want a gang bang. So they respected me for that. And I knew that the street had honor. For 25 years, I've been teaching my people about the legal system. I have went and fought battles for fathers who were being treated unjustly within the court system. They were good dads, but the mother had a different idea. You feel me? And it was not right. And I had to learn law because of my own situation, being forced to put on child support, even if I was a good dad. I learned and I studied and I overcame and won. The point I'm making is this: I've always been driven. I always knew I was chosen for something greater than the conscious perception of who I thought I was or who I was. And in 2011, the ancestors started coming to me. At first, it was a little bit scary. When I say scary, not scary in a bad sense, but who are these people? Never seen these people. But they came to me, and they came to me with feathers, and they looked like me in complexion. Okay, the skin tone. Some of them even mirrored me in features and my physiognomy. And I remember vividly in 2011, I was sitting in my kitchen on East 37th Street, and I was meditating, and the ancestors came over me and started showing me what took place in 1492. And they showed me that it were people who looked just like me that came here in 1492. It wasn't the so-called white man. It wasn't the pale man. No, they looked just like me. And they showed me everything. Of course, a lot of it was in a blur, but enough to see what it was. And from that moment, I was given a mission. My purpose was solidified, that I had to be a steward, a voice for my ancestors in this physical realm. And that was to restore my people. Even if growing up, I always knew we were Amerindians, I always knew we were indigenous, but that wasn't something we had to broadcast because we just knew what it was. So when I got that vision in 2011, I started doing videos telling people on social media, hey, we are indigenous, we are not black, this is who we are. People thought I was crazy because it wasn't popular as it is now. But people thought I was crazy. They thought I was nuts. But I kept on moving forward because I already had the conviction within me, because the ancestors came to me and showed me. And they showed up a few more times in visions and in dreams. So moving forward some, I started traveling all over the US, in as many places that I could afford at that time, teaching our people we are not black, we are not Africans, we are the original indigenous people, we are American Indians, we are the copper-colored people found in the Americas. One of the first ones on social media talking about that, even before the great ones, the big platforms, the popular teachers of today. I was that young buck teaching. I mean, I don't get the credit that I deserve, but it's okay, because I wasn't doing it for the gratification of man. I was doing it because the ancestors came to me and gave me a mission. Of course, I had many names, but the names that I've had in different paths and different walks of my life, it was me growing into my purpose. And it was only when I looked up the meaning of my name, the name that my mom gave me, from the suggestion of this young lady, it all started making sense. reflecting on my childhood, how I was and how I behaved and moved with people. I was always respectful. I mean, I was troublesome, yes. Love to get into fights, right? Because that's just boys. But I love playing marbles. But I was always respectful, always protective of my sisters. Always. You feel me? I grew up in a two-parent household. We had breakfast and dinner together. We couldn't miss that. All right. The boys had to be, the girls had to be in by 6 sundown and the boys by 7. We had a little hour extra because we were boys. But I grew up in a loving home. Never heard my father curse my mother, disrespect my mother. Never heard that. I'm certainly sure they had issues, but they did not allow us children to see and hear those things. You feel me? So being on my own, even if I was around the gang members, I still had that foundation of how my parents raised me. It was solid, and I'm very thankful for that. But when I got on that mission, that purpose of teaching my people about us being indigenous, it was a challenge. Reason being is because I wasn't born in the United States, the territory of the United States, but I was born in the Americas, in North America, particularly the island called Dominica, but the original indigenous name is Waiti Kubuli. You feel me? So more and more people start talking about us being indigenous. And it got so popular to the point where, man, everybody was talking about it. And I'm like, okay, I knew I had something to do with it because when I started, they barely had people talking about that, if ever. But it came to a point where the more I started growing into my purpose, the more the ancestors was preparing me for who I am and what I'm doing and the things to come, the more the opposition came. But they continued to show me that I'm always guided and I'm always protected. And I remember one time I was meditating in a state of rest. I don't call it sleep because sleep is just too permanent in my mind. I'm very big on words, so I say rest. So I was in a state of rest and the ancestors came to me, or a voice came to me and said, hey, you have to be more specific when you speak to your ancestors because there are actually unrighteous ancestors and righteous ancestors. And the universe cannot tell the difference between good and evil, good and bad, up, down, left, right, because everything just is from a universal perspective. So when you speak and you ask for things, you have to be specific. And I remember back in the days I used to do network marketing, and I remember Zig Ziglar said that very eloquently. He said that we must learn to be a meaningful specific instead of a wandering generality. In other words, don't be so general. Let us be specific because the universe gives you specific things because the universe is specific. So I had to redirect the way that I never use the word pray. I don't pray because to pray is to pray on people, and I don't want people praying on me. And up to this day, a lot of people don't get it in my household, but it's okay. They're still Christians. I forgive them. I love them. I let them do them, and there's a mutual respect. So I don't pray. I have conversations with my ancestors. All right. And that was how I learned the difference in asking the righteous ancestors and the unrighteous ancestors, because there are certain things that the righteous ancestors can do, and there are certain things that they cannot do, vice versa for the unrighteous ones. So I had to differentiate. So once I started becoming more of a meaningful specific, things started happening a little bit different. Even to the point when there's some type of negative energy coming my way, they let me know. So I was determined. I was on a mission. Now, with all the name changes, what's in a name, you may ask? A name is very important because it tells a lot about you. And that's why it's important to be mindful of the name that you name your children. When I told my mom the meaning of the name she gave me, she didn't even know what it was. She didn't look up the meaning. She just gave me the name. Her and my dad just gave me the name. And I'm glad they did because it literally, it speaks of who I was and who I am and who I will be. because I am that I am. You are that you are, regardless of all the challenges you have in life. You were already created to be a specific thing, to have a purpose. And that's my purpose. You did. So with all the name changes, right? Come to, like I said, 2011, I started calling myself Chief in 2011 because I knew what it meant. All right. Not knowing or foreseeing what that actually really meant in terms of being indigenous. All right. So the more work I did in putting things out there, all right, it brought me closer to my purpose. With all the indigenous work, I remember we created a nation, and then the matriarchs of the nation appointed me the chief of that nation. And that was cool. But the more work that I did, it were people who looked just like me, who claimed to be American Indians. They were the ones attacking me. You're not an American. You don't sound like us, because people think the United States is America. And it goes to show the ignorance of some people. But the troubling thing was they looked like me. We were teaching the same thing. Of course, I was always a little bit different in terms of the way I articulated things, the way I teach. So I don't know if that brought on some type of animosity, because I was one of the, the popular ones doing this, like one of the most popular, if not at that time. So a lot of people was coming at me. I don't know if it was to raise their viewers or their followings, but they were attacking me. And it was cool. I always told people, be mindful, be very careful, because I was chosen. And me always saying that, I still did not quite comprehend the significance or the magnitude of what I was saying in 2011, 12, and 2013 and 2014. I just didn't get it. But I was saying it because I was being obedient. I was just walking in my purpose. So then I did some meditation one time. I'm going to embody the name Kalinago, which is the Caribs, but they say that they want to be the Kalinagos. All right. So I'm going to embody that name to represent the entirety of the people. But then in a vision, in a dream, another voice came to me and literally told me that these people that call themselves Kalinagos, they're not the original people. They're not the original. The original people are the people that they call the Caribs, and they look like me. So the same thing that happens or happened in the United States, it happened all over the Americas. The original people were replaced because the Kalinagos, when you go to the Carib, it's called Carib Reserve, right? But they are called Kalinagos, now named the Kalinago territory, realizing and knowing that they replaced the Caribs and they look like the so-called Mexicans, Filipino looking type of people. So I knew they were not the original people. And once that came to me in a vision, and I already knew who came here in 1492, everything that I taught, it was done with conviction because I knew the truth. It didn't come from books. Certain things that I was told, you can't find that in any books whatsoever, but it came straight from the source. So you couldn't tell me anything. So I chose to give up that name Kalinago. There are rumors of haters out there talking about, he said he was the chief of the Kalinago. Not one time I ever said that in my entire life. Not one time. I know the chieftainess of the Kalinago people. I have her personal number. I have been to her house. Why would I disrespect her and say that I'm the chief of the Kalinagos? I never once said that, but people were spreading rumors, telling people on the internet I said I was the chief of the Kalinagos. But I knew that was part of my purpose and my journey. Okay, the crucifixion. Because every crucifixion came with a step forward in my ascension. And I remember one time I went to Memphis. I went to do some indigenous work out there. All right. And I got up. I've always been disciplined. I got up, went and did my workout, and I went to the park. And all of a sudden, a voice came into my head and instructed me to take a break. So I left the bars and go sit on the bench and lay down. I did all of that. And 3 minutes later, I was told to open my eyes. When I opened my eyes, I saw a white dove. It flew over me. I had never seen a white dove in person. I've seen it on TV, but not in person. And in Memphis at that, I saw a white dove. Never seen a white dove. I was in Memphis for over a year, always going to the park, never seen a dove, but it flew over me. And then the voice came into my mind and said, "You are initiated. Everything we have put you through, the dreams, the visions, the ancestors that came to you, they were preparing you, building you, and you went through a different sets of initiation." Because I used to have all these weird dreams. And when I say weird, I'm talking about dreams of me changing. You know what I mean? And I would just get up every time feeling different, not in a bad way, but in a grand way. And I could not truly understand what was happening, but ancestors were preparing me. I was humbled. Okay. So I went back to the house, chill. I told the chief, the chieftainess what happened. And, we had a laugh and a talk about it. And she said, "Hey, chief, man, listen, you're a great man and you're going to do great things. Ancestors rest her soul. She transitioned in 2018. So much work we did together. But I'm saying all that to say is what's in a name. So I know the ancestors were preparing me once again, like I said, molding me. And they had to give me a name that was going to bring me into that 360 after I went through all of the initiations that I went through. I remember one time in Brooklyn when I was I was in a state of rest, and all of a sudden, my entire body from my root chakra, it went up in flames and it went up my back. And I know they talk about the kundalini. That wasn't my strong point. I knew about it, but that wasn't my strong point. My strong point was always law, legal, and indigenous affairs. That's my strong point. I'm a master at that. All right. But I knew about the kundalini. So I felt my entire body all the way up onto my forehead, my crown chakra. It was inflamed. And they came and told me that was part of the initiation. So I knew that I was on a spiritual journey, a spiritual path. So with the name, I was always called or calling myself chief since 2011. So that was nothing new. I had to drop the Kalinago. It was Chief Kalinago Flying Eagle. And let me tell you how the eagle came about. One night, in a state of rest, I saw my body, walked out of my body. You know what I mean? And I heard a voice, not a voice, but a sound of an eagle, loud, screaming hysterically in my kitchen. I walked to the kitchen. When I looked on the refrigerator, it was an eaglet, but the eaglet had no feathers. It was screaming hysterically in a cage, all right, a small cage. And I got a little bit scared because, like, why is a baby eagle on my refrigerator? Not realizing it's a vision because it's looking real. It's real. Like I'm talking, it was so real. And then the ancestor came to me and tapped me on my shoulder. One of the ancestors that always came to me in dreams and visions. And that was when I taught, I had a conviction because when they came to me, they had their feathers, they looked like me. So I knew that we were not from Africa because my indigenous American ancestors always came to me and showed me and taught me. And he said, "Hey, chief, don't be afraid. The eagle wants you to feed it." And I said, "Ancestor," that's what I said. I said, "Ancestor, I don't have anything to feed the eagle." He pointed to the corner. It was some refined food. I took the food with both hands, but as I picked it up, it was so refined, it was seeping through my fingers. So by the time I got to the eagle couldn't eat because the food had already seeped out through my fingers. The eagle got a little more hysterical, angry to a certain extent, that with the sound that was coming out of the eaglet. So the ancestor, he came back and he said, "Man, don't be afraid. The eagle wants you to feed it." I'm like, "Ancestor, there's no food. You saw what happened." He pointed again. Then I saw something that looked like worms. Okay, I picked it up with both hands. This time it could not seep through my fingers, and I started feeding the eaglet. The eaglet started to eat and eat and eat, and the more it ate, the bigger it got, the more feathers it grew, and it became a full eagle. and it popped open the cage and it flew away. And in that same instance, I walked back into the room and got back into my body. And then the ancestors literally told me that I'm soaring, I'm flying, your name shall be Eagle. So I wrote it down when I got up the next day. I wrote down Chief Eagle. Within the next 2, 3, 24-hour cycles, what we call 24 hours or a day, I went back into a state of rest. And a voice came to me again, a very familiar voice. Something is missing. Your name is not complete. And then it came to me that your name is Chief Flying Eagle. That was that. So that was the name. All right. I'm moving forward. That has taken me on my journey. Everything that I'm doing my indigenous work, assisting my brothers and sisters, building and teaching and studying, writing books and doing all these different things. I listened to the voice of my ancestors. All right, because they were taking me through another transition, another level of ascension. And then the completion of my name, it came in a dream, a vision, always coming to me that my name is American. So that part came. I didn't know what it meant. All right. And never looked it up. And I saw the spelling. It was Khan. And it wasn't a Mary, it was a Mara. All right. So, because I've always been, how would I put it? I've always had this gravitational pull towards Ra, the sun, because I'm a son. I'm a sun child. You feel me? So, with that being said, the name became Chief Flying Eagle American. All right, that's the order that it was. And then Ra Elohim came, and then I took it. It became Chief American Flying Eagle Ra Elohim. Never looked up the meaning of any of this. And then, as a matter of fact, just a few days ago, I decided to look up the individual meaning of Amara and Khan. And Amara means grace, divine, favor, and loving presence. Okay, immortal or everlasting. And Amar, M-A-R, means to love. And that just embodies my personality. I've always told people I'm immortal because I'm not the flesh, not realizing what I'm speaking into existence with that name that was given to me that embodies my entire persona or my personalities, my characteristics. And that's what those names meant. And that's what they mean. And I always tell people, when people say you're blessed, I say, no, I'm not blessed. I am highly favored. Not realizing that Amara means divine favor. So everything that I spoke into existence, it became my reality in that one name, in that first part, the prefix of that name. And Khan, as in Khan, it means ruler, chief, a king, protection and guidance. And that's how I feel about the people that I love. That's how I feel about my people. And that's how I feel about the journey that the ancestors got me going on. So I'm saying all this to say, not to impress you, but to impress upon you that your journey, you cannot take it for granted. You need to know your purpose. And with your purpose, you'll find the mission to get it accomplished, because your purpose is your why. And the mission is the means of accomplishing your why, which is your purpose. And the ancestors have taken me into a 360 from the name that my parents gave me, Kenrick, which meant a ruler, okay, a leader, leadership qualities, nobility, strength, to which is physical from my physical parents, to the spiritual realm of my ancestors, solidifying and confirming and giving me that same how would I put it, name in a sense, but with different names, which means the same thing: the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. And I'm not talking about in the sense of spiritual Alpha and Omega, because it's immortal. There is no end or beginning, but we're talking about the beginning of things and to accomplish things, the beginning and the end. And I've always told people, be mindful how you deal with me and don't mess with me, because I'm protected. When I told people in 2017 that I was ordained to come, they thought I was cocky. Oh, you got a chip on your shoulder. It's your ego. No, it wasn't. I was just telling them what the ancestors told me. The things that I was doing, the things I'm going to do, it's ordained by the ancestors, by the righteous ancestors. And that my purpose is ordained. I never like lying, cheating, stealing. I don't lie, I don't cheat, I don't steal. And when I tell people I'm a righteous man, they don't know what that means. Well, what it means to me is this: because of me being chosen, not because I said so, because the ancestors showed me. I hear people talking about they're chosen, but do they really know what it means? I don't know, because they know their journey. They know their purpose. I know mine, and I know how it came about. And it's solidifying the spiritual realm by my righteous ancestors. So when I tell people I'm chosen, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's not just me saying that. It's not to be cocky, to think I'm different, I'm better than anybody. It has nothing to do with that. I'm not better than you. I just have a purpose. And the ancestors have ordained it. They have given me favor. So I wanted you to know a little bit about me and a little bit of my journey. And when you hear people talk, just know that it's rumors, it's propaganda, because this is who I am. Like I said, I don't lie, I don't cheat. I'm a man of integrity, respect. I have a moral compass, always did. A loving man, a protector, a ruler, a noble, a god, a king. All that's embodied in the name that my mom gave me and my ancestors solidified and gave me. And I took that name that they gave me to protect it. I copyright and trademark that name. I own it. And so my journey continues. And that's why I always tell people they cannot stop what I was sent for, because I was sent. And I've always told people in 2017, 2016, they are going to find out exactly who I am, because the ancestors sent me and they take it for granted. Or what people are always asking for, the real one. Well, guess what? You just don't know he's here. But I've been here. I've been telling people that I was sent. But only my works will tell my true story. So I was sent to restore my people. And like you always hear me tell people, nothing that anyone does is going to stop that. And I know how to reach out to the righteous ancestors and the unrighteous ones. I know how to use them both. And that's why I tell people, be very mindful when you use my name and you say certain things, because that name is a very powerful name and it was given to me. It was chosen just for me. So I want to thank you for listening to this. I know it was a little bit lengthy, but I felt a need to share that information with the people who listen to my videos and who follow my platforms. I want you to know who you're dealing with. You have one of the real ones, one of the righteous ones. Okay, and I'm saying one of, because I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I could only speak for me and the testament of my life. And this is just the beginning. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your 24. This is your brother, Lord American Flying Eagle Ra Elohim. As of last year, August, I became a proclaimed Lord. All right. And that's how the Lord became part of my name. Thank you.